It's all about Jupiter. And why is it that the planet of luck and abundance sometimes leaves us with broken dreams and no luck at all? Welcome everyone to my 100th episode on my channel, and thank you for being here. Today we are talking about the greater benefic Jupiter as it makes its grand entrance into the sign of Leo. In this episode, we will be covering the basics of the planet Jupiter, Jupiter's myth and its underdeveloped and shadow expression, and often why it's overhyped. We're also going to be talking about its relationship to Saturn, and we'll be exploring Leo through its solar energy as it moves through each sun sign each month. There's so much to cover in this episode, so in my next video, I will be going further into Jupiter and Leo, and I'll take Jupiter and Leo's journey through its host, the sun, as well as the horoscopes. Who doesn't love horoscopes? And I do want to emphasize that although I did start this channel back in 2011, this channel has evolved, but I still want to honor that this is my 100th video, and realizing that 100 videos is a lot. Quite Jupiterian if you ask me, right? So make sure you like this video and subscribe, and let's get started. With the planet Jupiter, have you ever felt a desire to travel somewhere new or learn something that change your perspective, or maybe take a chance to an opportunity, or believe that something bigger was possible in your life? Yeah, that is the impulse of Jupiter. Jupiter represents the impulse towards growth, expansion, meaning, opportunity, wisdom, and faith in life itself. Wherever Jupiter appears, there is a tendency to enlarge, explore, trust, and seek bigger horizons in that part. Jupiter is known as the greater benefic, and it's a diurnal planet of abundance and growth and wisdom. And it's part of the daytime sect in Hellenistic astrology, and it tends to be more favorable in the daytime charts, where the sun is above the horizon. Jupiter has dignity and rules over Sagittarius and Pisces, with its exaltation in Cancer, which we just experienced in Cancer. Jupiter finds its fall a place that it's not very comfortable in Capricorn, and also in detriment in Gemini and Virgo. Jupiter orbits the entire zodiac in around 12 years and stays on an average of 1 year per sign. Jupiter represents trust in life and the belief in life's meaning, the ideals, and search for discovery of personal meaning in life. It also stands for the forces of growth, which give life prosperity, good fortune, growth, and abundance. Whatever Jupiter touches, it expands. Something to remember is that Jupiter grows through encounters with what is unfamiliar. Psychologically, Jupiter is the part of our psyche where we ask ourselves, what is possible? What can I become? What story gives my life purpose, and what future am I moving toward? What wants to grow within me as well? Jupiter is connected to hope because hope allows movement. We can endure difficulty if we believe it serves a larger purpose. This is why Jupiter is often associated with faith, optimism, opportunity, abundance, wisdom, generosity, vision, healing, and medicine. Jupiter can also represent the archetype of kings and rulers, judges, priests, teachers, philosophers, lawyers, advisors, diplomats, scholars, and wealthy patrons. In a mythic sense, Jupiter is not merely the king. It is the archetype of a person who can see the larger picture and inspire others to participate in it. That is why Jupiter shows up in the charts of teachers, spiritual guides, judges, professors, publishers, explorers, and leaders. They are all helping others connect to a world that is larger than their immediate circumstances. I often think of Jupiter as offering 3 gifts: the gift of meaning, the gift of opportunity, and the gift of faith. It symbolizes expansion and integration of Jupiter. The gift of meaning is integrated with experiences and bringing meaning to them. According to Robert Hand, he expresses that planets are fundamentally psychological in action and it expands something in the psyche. Jupiter symbolizes the expansion, bringing meaning to action and experiences in which we live as individuals. The gift of opportunity seeks wisdom rather than pure information. Jupiter opens doors, and it symbolizes moments when life presents possibilities, invitations, and new horizons. And lastly, the gift of faith. And not necessarily religious faith, but rather faith that life is worth engaging with. The danger is that Jupiter can become excessive. It can be overestimate, overpromise, overindulge, or assume that everything will somehow work out. When it comes to Jupiter's nature of being underdeveloped or its shadow expression and why it's often a planet that is overhyped, is the same force that helps us dream big that can also lead us to believe that there are no limits. Traditionally, we regard Jupiter as the greater benefic planet, and we often mistake Jupiter's expansive reach for guaranteed prosperity and luck. Yet, in transit frequently, it brings out something else where some people don't feel good with it. And sometimes there is a good reaction to Jupiter transits, but Jupiter can feel overrated with its tendencies towards that in excess, arrogance, waste, overindulgence, and sloppiness. And now there is a limit to growth, so we must dissect how Jupiter expands existing natal placements and how it demands rigorous discipline to transform its chaotic worth into lasting abundance. We all have a certain capacity for growth, and once that capacity exceeds, growth stops. Society or the external world can only support so much growth, and unlimited growth may leave no room for further work, and too many available resources can lead to one to waste what one has, and it can become a barrier to growth. That's Saturn at play, and the limit is imposed by its energy. Jupiter and Saturn are one of the most important planetary pairings in astrology because they represent a fundamental tension that's built into human life as collective planets. Now, I don't want to get too into it, but it is important how Saturn's influence Jupiter's growth and expansion. And looking at it from the most simple way, Jupiter says yes and Saturn says no, but that is only on the surface. Jupiter seeks growth, meaning, faith, possibility, optimism, and expansion. It wants to trust that life is larger than what we currently know. It encourages us to take risks, pursue wisdom, explore horizons, and believe in future potential. Saturn represents the reality principle, and it seeks structure and limitations, responsibility, maturity, endurance, time, and consequences. Saturn wants what is sustainable, what is earned, and what is possible within the laws of time and matter. Without Saturn, Jupiter becomes inflation. Without Jupiter, Saturn becomes despair. The two are not enemies, but they are necessary counterparts. Saturn and Jupiter are the importance of the discipline and the work as the necessary container for divine inspiration to come through. Liz Greens mentions Jupiter and Saturn can be understood as two necessary functions of the psyche. So these two planets begin to form a cosmic conversation with each other. Jupiter gives us the myth that we live by, and Saturn tests whether that myth is true. Jupiter creates the vision, and Saturn brings trials. Jupiter seeks the transcendence, and Saturn seeks embodiment. One can say that Jupiter dreams of becoming the hero, while Saturn creates the trials that make heroism real. Without Saturn, the hero remains a fantasy. Without Jupiter, there is no reason to undertake this journey. We can also look at this as a zodiac story of Jupiter and Saturn. The zodiac itself tells the story between Sagittarius and Capricorn, rulers of Jupiter, handing over to Saturn, and Aquarius and Pisces, Jupiter taking over Saturn. Sagittarius is ruled by Jupiter, and it is the archer, aiming toward a distant horizon. It seeks truth, meaning, philosophy, adventure, and vision. The danger is that Sagittarius can remain in the realms of ideals like Jupiter. And then comes Capricorn. The question changes from what do you believe to what can you actually accomplish? Jupiter discovers the mountain and Saturn climbs it. Sagittarius says, I have a vision, and Capricorn says, now prove it. The revelation comes first, then the work comes second. In Aquarius, the relationship reverses. Aquarius is always concerned with systems, with structures and communities and laws and long-term organizations, where Saturn here questions how should society function and create frameworks moving forward. Then Pisces follows. Pisces dissolves the boundaries, Aquarius creates. Aquarius builds the container, Pisces reconnects the container to the infinite. Here, Saturn creates order and Jupiter restores meaning. The way Jupiter and Saturn work together moves directly into the zodiac sign through Sagittarius becoming Capricorn and Aquarius becoming Pisces. One pair shows vision becoming achievement, while the other shows structure becoming transcendent. Together, Saturn and Jupiter describe the eternal connection and balance between meaning and manifestation, possibility and reality. Jupiter and Saturn. In mythology, Jupiter corresponds to the Greek god Zeus. Zeus was not merely just a sky god, he was the ruler who established order after a period of chaos and conflict among the Titans. One of Zeus's primary roles was to create a world where life would flourish. His symbols tell us much about Jupiter, the sky, the eagle, and the thunderbolt. These are the images of elevation, of vision, strength, and connection onto something greater than oneself. The eagle is particularly important. The eagle flies higher than any other bird and sees farther than others can see. Psychologically, Jupiter functions similarly. It helps us rise above immediate problems and see the bigger picture. Its keen vision and power in flight symbolize his ability to oversee the world and maintain both order in the divine and in the mortal realms. An often overlooked part of Zeus's myth is that he is the protector of strangers, of travelers, and guests. Zeus watched over encounters between people from different places and different backgrounds. Here we can see how Jupiter's astrological symbolism and meaning moves through travel and foreign cultures, education, philosophy, exchange of ideas, the broadening of one's worldview. Zeus is less about power itself and more about participating in a larger order of life. Jupiter asks us to trust that there is a bigger story unfolding and that our task is to grow into it. With Zeus's mythology, we can also see how Jupiter and Saturn are always working together. In mythology, Jupiter is Zeus and Saturn is Kronos. They are father and son. Kronos, Saturn rules through fear, control, and preservation of the existing order. And Zeus, Jupiter, overthrows him and establishes a new cosmic order. Yet Jupiter never fully escapes Saturn. No matter how visionary Jupiter Zeus becomes, it still exists within Saturn's Kronos world of time, mortality, and limitation. Every expansion eventually encounters a boundary. Every possibility eventually requires embodiment, and every vision eventually demands work. Now, let's take a look at Jupiter in Leo. Jupiter will make its ingress into the fixed fire sign of Leo on June 30th. The element of Jupiter shows what sorts of experiences and types of activities generate inner faith and confidence in oneself. Opportunities come through the expression of that element and energy. In fire signs here in Leo, Jupiter's inner faith comes when one is outgoing, enthusiastic, taking action, being assertive, and physically active. In the sign of Leo, Jupiter is pulled by the sun, so Jupiter's qualities of growth, opportunities, and wisdom and blessings are there filtered through the condition and symbolism of the sun. Jupiter in Leo is expansion through authenticity, creativity, courage, and self-expression rather than through adaptation and consensus or intellectual detachment. Jupiter is neither dignified nor debilitated in Leo, so the condition of the sun becomes extremely important. It rejoices in signs that share its fiery, outgoing nature, and so when Jupiter is in Leo, in the masculine fiery sign ruled by the sun, the combination tends to be favorable. Jupiter is not in any essential dignity here, neither domicile, exaltation, nor detriment, but it thrives by sympathy of temperament of fire. Jupiter in Leo is considered a placement of magnitude, and not so much in the technical sense of rulership, but in the expression of nobility, generosity, and fame. Valens noted that Jupiter in the sun sign makes men magnificent, fond of honor, and benefactors, often bringing favor from kings or people of rank. The native is seen as elevated in spirit, generous with others, and inclined towards leadership or those who guide others with virtue or divine insight. Leo is fixed fire, stability of purpose, radiance that sustains rather than flickers. The sun as ruler confers visibility while Jupiter brings fortune and moral authority. When combined, you get the image of someone whose good fortune grows through shining their light or through acts that uplift others. The shadow side is that every Jupiter transit can become excessive. Some of the potential Leo shadows include ego inflation, grandiosity, attention-seeking, entitlement, needing constant recognition, and mistaking applause for purpose. The sun gives life, but too much sun scorches the field. Jupiter gives growth, but unchecked growth becomes excess. Every Jupiter transit can become excessive. The sun's highest expression is not domination, it is radiance. The sun shines because it is its nature to shine and not because it needs admiration. The mature Jupiter in Leo becomes the wise ruler who uses power to elevate others. From a psychological perspective, this raises a central question of who am I becoming when I am no longer defined by the expectations of others? And some of the other psychological themes that may come up with Jupiter in Leo are visibility anxiety, healthy narcissism, creative risk, and leadership development. So first, let's look at visibility anxiety. Many people secretly want to be seen, but many people are terrified of being seen. Jupiter in Leo expands this tension. This is where the ego begins with the what ifs and what happens if people notice me and what happens if I succeed and what happens if I become influential and can I handle this visibility? 2. Healthy narcissism. Depth psychologists sometimes distinguish between pathological narcissism and healthy narcissism. Healthy narcissism includes self-respect, pride in one's accomplishments, recognition of personal gifts, and appropriate self-confidence. Jupiter in Leo often develops these capacities, and the challenge is learning that confidence is not arrogance. 3. Creative risk. The sun creates by shining. Leo energy wants you to create without any guarantees, doing things without the expectations of any outcome. artists, entrepreneurs, teachers, writers, and performers frequently experience this creative breakthroughs during strong Leo periods. 4. Leadership development. The shadow of Leo often can manifest as waiting for permission, looking for authority figures, and seeking validation before acting. Jupiter in Leo encourages movement towards self-trust, initiative, and leadership. But when Jupiter enters Leo, there is an often increase in enthusiasm and confidence and creativity, ambition and visibility. So when Jupiter gives us this growth, the sun wants us to be centered and grounded throughout. And so how can we work with this energy to stay grounded and centered? 1. Let's create before you announce. One of the most common Jupiter in Leo mistakes is premature visibility. The ego wants recognition before the work is mature. And the sun rises every day because it follows a dependable rhythm. It doesn't demand attention, it simply shines. So if you have a project or something that you are working on, ask yourself, is this project ready to be seen? Am I seeking feedback or applause? What would this look like if nobody knew what I was doing? A good Jupiter in Leo practice is spending twice as much time creating as much as you are promoting. So 2, focus on contribution rather than recognition. Leo's highest expression is not celebrity, it is generosity. The sun shines on everyone equally, and whenever you feel yourself becoming preoccupied, whether it's followers, visibility, status, recognition, or praise, start to focus on other. Jupiter grows whatever we feed. If we feed contribution, our contribution grows. If we feed vanity, vanity will grow. So thinking about possibly more generosity would generate more generosity. 3, let Saturn sit beside Jupiter. As I mentioned earlier, from a traditional perspective, Jupiter and Saturn are partners. Jupiter imagines the palace, and then Saturn asks how many bricks and what kind are required. If you're creating something during Jupiter in Leo, make sure that for every vision you are creating something during this time, and process with yourself, what is my timeline? What is the structure that I need to put it forward? And what is my budget? What is the daily practice with this? A simple rule that every Jupiter goal needs is a Saturn system. 4, develop a daily ritual. The sun is the most regular body in the heavens. Its power comes from consistency, especially as it guides Jupiter throughout its journey through the zodiac. Jupiter in Leo often inspires grand visions, and grounding happens through repetition. A daily ritual might include writing, meditation, exercise, prayer, anything artistic, teaching, small actions that are repeated faithfully and are more solar than dramatic bursts of inspiration. Remember that Jupiter in Leo can cause burnout. So 5, stay connected to the heart. In many traditions, Leo governs the heart. The heart has 2 duties, to receive and to give. Jupiter in Leo becomes inflated when it only receives admiration. It becomes noble when it also gives encouragement. So it's important to think about if you're helping others shine, because the sun loses nothing by illuminating others, which is what Leo does best. He brings out the shine in others. From a psychological and mythological perspective, transiting Jupiter in Leo is not just Jupiter expressing itself through Leo, but it's also entering the kingdom of the sun and learning to grow according to its solar values. The sun becomes the host, the guide, and the teacher for Jupiter's year-long journey. In traditional astrology, the host sets the condition under which the guests can act. Jupiter may be in Leo all year, but the sun is constantly moving, changing the chapter of the story every month and how the story unfolds. Jupiter in Leo is going to be a solar journey where Jupiter will bring meaning, growth, and the sun will symbolize identity, purpose, and vitality. This means that Jupiter in Leo will be a time that correlates with the development of confidence and reclaiming personal authority and strengthening the creative expression within us. And finally, discovering one's own unique contribution. But this is also about helping and stepping into leadership. The psyche here wants to be challenged and to become fully itself. This can feel exciting, but it can also feel terrifying. And many people during this time discover that they spent years identifying with roles, responsibilities, and relationships or expectations that no longer aligned. Jupiter in Leo often exposes places where the authentic self has been hidden. This can also be associated through the lens of death psychology, like Carl Jung, who saw the sun as a symbol, as the center of our consciousness. So Jupiter moving through Leo may feel like the process of individuation. This is, again, looking at the natal promise first, and according to where the Leo house rules in your chart and where your natal sun is in your chart. A transit does not just create destiny that isn't already in the natal chart. It activates and amplifies, develops what is already present in the chart. That is the deeper psychological invitation of Jupiter in Leo, not just self-expression, but the development of a stable, authentic center from which a meaningful life can be lived. This will be coming through the entire time Jupiter is in Leo, as the sun is the host and will move through each sign each month. The sun will act as the guide of where the growth and expansion needs to take place, but also the wise ruler who uses power to elevate others. The larger narrative remains with Jupiter wanting us to grow something within us during this transit in Leo. But the sun will be bringing out something within to become our true self. It's a time to imagine if you trust your own light enough to let it guide others. And it's shifting the light from ourselves onto others. Thank you so much for joining me today on my 100th video. Join me next time as I take Jupiter in Leo's journey through its host, the sun, and how it will unfold and express itself in your chart each month. And as the sun moves through each sign, I will show you through each rising sign and all of the horoscopes, and we'll see if it promises growth or integration depending on your natal promise. So thank you again, and I will see you next time. Bye-bye.